State. News Central's Bongani Siziba gives us the story.
Security forces out in their numbers to guard almost deserted cities. Johannesburg and Pretoria alike looked like ghost towns, with most businesses shut down in these two cities and others across the country. South Africans were on both sides of the fence whether to join the protest or not. But what was clear among them is Ramaphosa must resign.
2020, in 2017, when he started to become a deputy president of this country, he promised people a lot of things. He promised job for young people, he promised everyone better life, but none of those things are happening in this country. So Cyril Ramaphosa is the man without his weight. So Cyril Ramaphosa must go.
After a long speculation of where the EFF leader was, he appeared at the Church Square in Pretoria, where he addressed his supporters before leading the march past union buildings.
South Africa equates today, and to demonstrate to you the biggest center of the economy in the whole African continent is Shutdown City. As we speak today, Shutdown City has been closed down. There is no single shop in Shutdown City that is open. Why? The mighty EFF does so without burning a building, without doing anything illegal, doing everything to make sure that we stay on the message. What is the message? Load shedding. What is the message? Ramaphosa must go. What is the message? High unemployment. What is the message? GPV. What is the message? High levels of crime in South Africa. What is the message? The poverty levels have increased in South Africa. That message, they can't shift on it.
Some foreign nationals also joined the march.
I'm here today in solidarity to support the strike, which is a peaceful demonstration in demand for better governance for our people.
As the shutdown continued across the country, Police Minister Bheki Cele said at least more than 80 people had been arrested. Bongani Siziba for News Central TV, Pretoria.
Now, join us now to unpack this story is South African journalist and editor Dianne Hawker. Good evening to you, Dianne.
Good evening, Benga, and good evening to the viewers as well.
Now, the government announced a large contingent of military personnel, seemingly anticipating violence in the protest. Did the protest result in any sort of violence?
Well, the military was actually called in by President Cyril Ramaphosa, who has the power as commander-in-chief to actually request a military deployment. That military deployment was for about 3,400 soldiers requested via the Speaker of Parliament. Now, we know that part of the reason why there was concern about violence was because of the July unrest, that protest that took place 2 years ago. However, thus far, there hasn't been any level of violence, looting, or any major disruption. For the most part, the protest was peaceful. It took place in Pretoria, but also in Cape Town and parts of Johannesburg. There were also other smaller groups of demonstrators. I believe the Pretoria demonstration looked like it was the largest of all of them, but there were demonstrations in KwaZulu-Natal as well, Cape Town, as I mentioned, as well as Johannesburg in various locations. So considering that there was almost like an anticipation or an expectation that there would be looting and violence, in this instance, the EFF was able to control those who were marching with them, and there was no such major incident as anticipated.
Now, Dianne, it was said that SAFTU was going to collaborate with the EFF. Did that make this strike more effective? And did other unions and also rival political parties participate in this national shutdown?
We did see some members of SAFTU as part of that protest. SAFTU is one of the larger unions in South Africa, and the leader Julius Malema said that they were coming out in support of this protest, particularly have been facing. As your report indicated there, of course, there was a small group of migrants who were in South Africa who were also part of that protest, as well as some other organizations we saw participating in the protest.
Now, finally, Dianne, some of the issues that the EFF have raised ahead of the march are quite significant, such as the issue of load shedding. What has been the government's response to some of these issues?
Well, thus far, the government is yet to respond. Benga, the issues, they range quite into various areas of South African life, not only the load shedding issue. Of course, load shedding has been a big problem in South Africa, with it going through various stages and reaching even stage 6 of load shedding that we've seen recently. But they were also complaining about government's response to gender-based violence, for example, which is something that South Africans have been grappling with for a long time. And we've yet to see the government, comprehensively respond to some of the issues being raised. Before the march took place, most of the response was more in terms of the government's level of preparedness for the march. So there were press conferences held, for example, by the police minister and police commissioner, and also notifications about the deployment of soldiers. But in terms of the content of the actual complaints by the EFF, the government has yet to respond.
Thank you very much, Dianne Hawker. Always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.